Hello, friends. Welcome to the Story Hub. Read People Like a Book by Patrick King. Every person has a pattern of thinking, understanding, and behaving. If we learn to recognize this pattern, we can easily understand and predict anyone's intentions, feelings, and decisions. This pattern is influenced by their past experiences, emotional needs, and psychological conditions. This means that the person you are today is the result of your experiences in your past life. If we look at someone's behavior carefully and understand why they are doing what they are doing, we can also guess their future steps. For example, a friend of yours always gets angry quickly over every small thing. You notice that whenever someone points out any of his mistakes, he becomes defensive and starts arguing. If you try to understand his personality, it is possible that his behavior is related to his old life. Maybe he was scolded a lot in childhood, or he was made to feel that he is never right. So now whenever someone points out his mistake, his mind starts to defend him, and he immediately reacts with anger. If you understand this pattern, you can already know how he will react the next time he is told about his mistake. Similarly, if you know a person who is always ready to help everyone, even if he himself is in trouble, it may mean that he sees his value in the happiness of others. It may be that he has faced something in his life where he got love and affection only when he gave more importance to the needs of others than his own. Therefore, now it has become his habit to help others even by forgetting himself. If you recognize this pattern, you can understand why he is doing this repeatedly, and you can also know that he will behave in the same way in the future. Another way to understand behavior patterns is to see the difference between their words and actions. Many times people say something, but their real intention is something else. Suppose a colleague of yours always says that he does not care about the opinion of others. But whenever someone criticizes him, he remains upset for weeks. It means that his words and his real thoughts do not match. What he says means that he wants to show himself as if it does not matter to him, but in reality, the opinion of others affects him a lot. If you understand this pattern, then you can already know that if someone criticizes him again, he will get upset again. While analyzing the behavior of people, we also have to see how they react in different situations. For example, a person who jokes a lot with his friends and seems open, but becomes very calm and serious in the work environment, it can mean that he is very good at adapting himself according to his environment. But if a person behaves the same everywhere, like he is very serious all the time or keeps joking all the time, it means that his behavior is related to his inner personality and not just the environment. Many times people adopt a fake personality to impress others, but if you look at their behavior carefully, you can recognize their real personality. Suppose a person always tries to show that he is very confident, but when he is asked a difficult question, he becomes uncomfortable and tries to change the topic. This means that his confidence is a performance. If you learn to recognize such patterns, you can know who is really like that and who is just pretending. Our behavior patterns are also related to our psychological needs. Some people feel the need to always be proved right, so they never accept their mistakes. Some people want attention all the time, so they repeatedly do something that draws people's attention to them. Some people like to control, so they try to dictate everything. If you understand which need of a person is the most important, you can also guess how he will behave. Now think, if you know a person who always puts his point first in the group, this shows his need to get the most attention. Now, if someone else starts speaking more in his place, there are chances that he will feel uncomfortable and will try to draw everyone's attention towards himself again in some way. If you recognize this pattern, it will not be difficult for you to understand how he will react in the future. Another way to understand behavior patterns is to analyze people's decisions. Whenever someone takes a big decision, it does not depend only on the immediate situation, but his past experiences, his fears, and his desires also play a big role in it. Suppose a person rejects a new opportunity every time he gets it, because he feels that there is a risk of failure in it. It may be that this fear of his is related to his old life, where he has taken a big risk and has failed, so now he wants to avoid every risk. If you recognize this pattern, you can guess in advance that that person will avoid taking risks in the future as well. Similarly, if a person always grabs every opportunity immediately and takes decisions without thinking, this can also be a pattern. It may be that in his life, he must have learned that grabbing the opportunity immediately is the key to success. That is why he is always ready to adopt new opportunities without thinking much. Understanding the behavior patterns of people not only helps us to know about them, but we can also improve our relationships. If you understand the reasons behind the behavior of any of your friends, partners, or colleagues, you can have more patience with them and can build a better rapport with them. In the end, it is important to understand that no human being remains the same. People change with time, but their change also happens in a pattern. If you recognize the pattern of this change, you can also understand in which direction a person is moving in his life and what his next step can be. So, if you want to understand people better, do not just go by their words, but look at their behavior carefully. Understand their past experiences, their desires, their fears, and their essential needs. When you do this, you will not only learn to read people, but also become an expert in guessing their future decisions. Most of us believe that a person's behavior is only dependent on their words. To understand someone, we should only pay attention to their words, but the truth is that a person's body language and facial expressions have more power than words. Many times people say something, but their real meaning is reflected by their expressions. If we learn to read someone's body language and facial expressions correctly, we can understand their real feelings, even if they are saying something else. Suppose you ask your friend if he is fine, and he replies, "Yes, I'm fine." But if his voice is a little slow, his eyes are slightly bent down, and his shoulders are a little loose, does it mean that he is really fine? Maybe not. His words are saying something else, but his body is telling something else. This is the reason that instead of relying only on words, we should also look carefully at people's expressions and body language. Facial expressions are the most effective signals because a person's real feelings are quickly visible on the face. When someone is happy, his eyes shine, there is a slight smile on the lips, and the face looks open. Whereas when someone is sad, there is heaviness in his eyes. The eyebrows are slightly bent, and lips look stiff. Fear, anger, surprise, or worry, every emotion has a different expression, and if we start understanding it, we can guess the state of mind of any person. Now, suppose a colleague in your office always says that he has no problem with anyone, but whenever a particular person enters the room, his body language changes. His face becomes somewhat stiff, his eyes avoid making eye contact, and his hands unconsciously turn into fists. It will not take you long to understand that he really has a problem with that person, even if he is denying it in words. Other signs of body language include the postures and gestures of a person. For example, when a person is taking an interest in something, his body is bent forward, his eyes are focused towards the person or the subject, and his eyebrows are slightly raised. But if someone is getting bored, his back bends back, the eyes start wandering here and there, and his hands are probably resting somewhere, which shows that he is just passing time. Now imagine if you are talking to someone and he is constantly shaking his feet, looking at his watch, or checking his phone repeatedly. What would it mean? It can be a direct indication that the person is restless or is not taking much interest in the conversation. Such small signals can tell us what the person in front of us is really feeling. Such small signals can tell us what the person in front of us is really feeling.
Many times people try to hide their feelings, but some signals do come out of their body. For example, when someone lies, he usually avoids eye contact, repeatedly touches his nose or face, or there is a slight change in his voice. If you start catching these signals, you can identify when someone is speaking the truth and when not. However, it is also important to understand that it would not be right to draw any conclusion by just looking at one signal. If someone's eyes are lowered, it does not mean that he is definitely sad. It may be that he is just tired. If someone has folded his arms, it does not mean that he is angry with you. It may be that he is feeling cold. Therefore, we should always keep the context in mind. If a person is constantly in a defensive posture, then we have to see whether it is a part of his nature or he is doing this in a particular situation. Apart from this, while reading body language, we should look at clusters of different signals. It would not be right to draw any conclusion by looking at only one signal. For example, if a person is standing with his arms folded, it does not mean that he is rude or angry. But if along with that his eyebrows are tense, lips are a little hard, and the body is bent back, then these signals together can show that the person is really angry with something or is feeling defensive. Now let us take another example. Suppose a person is talking to you and smiling in between, but that happiness is not visible in his eyes. His smile is limited only to his lips. The eyes look a little tired and he is repeatedly touching his neck. It may mean that he is smiling for show, but is feeling troubled or uncomfortable from inside. This art of reading people is very beneficial not only in personal relationships, but also in professional life. Suppose you are in a meeting and your boss says that he liked your project report, but instead of happiness, there is a slight annoyance on his face and his hands are lying lifelessly on the table. This may mean that he is just following the formalities but is actually not satisfied with the report. If you catch this signal, you can improve the report in time and leave a better impression in the future. Another big advantage of reading body language and facial expressions is that it helps us to test someone's honesty. Suppose a person is telling you that he did not make any mistake, but there is hesitation in his voice while speaking. He is rolling his eyes repeatedly and his fingers are being rubbed together. These signals can tell that he is not speaking the whole truth. Reading language is an art, and it comes only by practicing slowly. If you start paying attention to the gestures and facial expressions of people in everyday life, you will gradually start understanding which signals indicate what. Finally, it is important to understand that every person is different and someone's body language should be read carefully. The best way to read someone is to first notice their general habits. If a person is usually very energetic, but one day he is seen sitting quietly, it can be a sign that something is wrong. Similarly, if a person who is always quiet suddenly starts showing a lot of gestures, it can also be unusual. When you start paying attention to these small things, you will start to get an idea of what people are really feeling, even if they are saying something else. This will not only increase your ability to understand, but you will also be able to communicate with others in a better and more effective way. There is some reason behind everything that every person does. Someone works hard because he wants success, someone saves because he is worried about the future, someone helps someone because he gets happiness, and someone lies because he wants to avoid some trouble. If we understand what makes a person happy and what scares him, we can guess how he will behave in the future. Actually, every person has two big motivation drivers: getting happiness and avoiding pain. People behave in ways that either make them feel good or save them from some trouble. If you observe someone's behavior carefully, you will start understanding which things attract him and which things he runs away from. It is very important to understand this because when you understand someone's motivation, you can also guess what decisions he will take in the future. Suppose there are two colleagues in your office. One always works harder, takes extra work and tries to learn from his every mistake. The second one always wants to do as little work as possible, avoids taking risks, and runs away from any new responsibility. Why is there a big difference in the behavior of these two? The first person gets happiness from success. Maybe he wants a promotion or he wants to make his mark with his work. He feels that working hard will give him the happiness he wants. On the other hand, the second person is driven by the fear of success. He does not want to make any mistake, wants to avoid criticism, and therefore does not take any such step which may cause him trouble later. If you understand this motivation, you can also guess how their behavior will be when they are given a new project. The first person will take it enthusiastically, while the other may make an excuse or at least try to take responsibility. Now imagine that you suggest a friend to start going to the gym. If he is motivated by the motivation of happiness, he may think that going to the gym will improve his fitness, he will feel good, and his personality will improve. If he is motivated by the motivation of avoiding pain, he will think that by going to the gym he can avoid diseases, he will not have the problem of obesity, and will stay away from health-related problems in the future. Both people can go to the gym, but their reasons will be different. One will find happiness in it, and the other will find it a way to avoid danger. Similarly, if a person always gets angry quickly, it is important to understand that his anger is also related to some motivation. It may be that he had to prove his point again and again in his childhood, and now he tries to prove himself right in every argument so that he does not have to struggle again. Or it may be that he's very concerned about his self-respect, and whenever he feels that someone is reducing his respect, he gets angry. If you understand the reason behind his anger, you can also understand in which situations he will get angry and how he can be pacified. People's fear also affects their behavior. Some people are very cautious about their image in the society because they fear rejection. Such people always ensure that they wear the right clothes, say the right words, and avoid any social mistake. On the other hand, some people are very careful about money because they fear poverty. Such people always focus on savings, avoid spending too much, and never spend money on unnecessary things. If you understand what a person's fear is, you can also guess his decisions. Suppose a friend of yours is always very cautious in relationships. He does not trust anyone easily, does not open up much, and thinks a lot before entering into any new relationship. It is possible that he has been badly broken in an old relationship and now he does not want to suffer the same pain again, so he weighs everything before starting any relationship so that he does not go through the pain again. If you understand that his behavior is to avoid pain, you can also understand what to do to convince him. Similarly, some people pay a lot of attention to show off. They always buy expensive things, put their good pictures on social media, and exaggerate their success. If you look at their motivation, there is also a game of happiness and pain in it. It may be that they get happiness from praise and recognition, so they make their lifestyle in such a way that people appreciate them. Or it may be that they have a fear that if they learn ordinary things, people will underestimate them. To avoid this fear, they always try to show their status high. Now think, if you are dealing with a customer, will it not be necessary to know what he is influenced by? If a customer buys something that will give him happiness, you have to tell him how much your product will make his life better. But if a customer only wants to avoid loss, you have to explain to him what loss he can suffer if he does not buy this product. Just look at children. When a child studies, he does this either because he thinks that he will get good marks and will be praised, or because if he fails, he will be punished. His motivation is either happiness or pain avoidance. If parents understand which motivation motivates their child more, they can motivate him to study in the right way. Our decisions are also driven by this motivation. A person can take up a new job because he will get more money in it, happiness, or because he is fed up with his old job, pain avoidance. A person can get married because he needs a partner, happiness, or because he is afraid of loneliness, pain avoidance. If you understand what is driving someone's life, desire for happiness or pain, you can predict his next steps. You can see how he will behave in which situation, which decisions he will take, and which things will affect him the most. When you start understanding people at this level, your own communication and relationship building capacity becomes very strong. Every person's needs are different, but if you look carefully, these needs are connected. Some people's biggest concern is to earn money and fulfill their basic needs, while some people are more interested in love and relationships, while some people put their career, identity, and self-esteem above everything else. Understanding which level a person is at helps us know what things will motivate him the most and how his behavior will be. Psychologist Abraham Maslow created a hierarchy of needs to explain this better, which is called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. In this, human needs are divided into 5 levels. The lowest needs are the most basic, and as a person fulfills these needs, he moves to the next level. If you identify where a person stands on this ladder, you can also understand what will affect him the most and how he will take decisions in the future. The first level is of physical needs. It includes things like food, water, sleep, and basic rest. If these basic needs of a person are not being met, his entire focus will be on these things. For example, if a person is unemployed and he does not have money, his biggest concern will be how he can fulfill his daily needs. He will not be worried about things like relationships or self-esteem at this time because his mind will first ensure that he survives. Now imagine if you are struggling to eat and you tell him that he should focus on his self-development, will he take it seriously? Probably not, because his priority right now is to satisfy his hunger. This is the reason why when we talk to someone, we should first see what level his needs are. If a person is engaged in fulfilling his basic needs, then before talking about any big motivation, it is important to understand his current situation.
The second level is of security needs. It includes things like job stability, home, health, and future security. If a person's physical needs have been fulfilled, then now he wants stability in his life. For example, if a person is doing a job, but he is always afraid of losing his job, his concern goes beyond money and becomes about security. He will take decisions that give him more stability and security, even if he does not adopt bigger opportunities. Now, if you see a person who feels very secure, you will notice that he will be more comfortable taking risks.
But if a person is living in fear all the time, like he feels that his job can go anytime or his home is not safe, then his behavior will be different. He will be more cautious about his decisions, will avoid change, and will not take interest in anything that may threaten his stability. The third level is of social needs. When a person fulfills his basic and security needs, he now looks for relationships, friendship, and connection with society. He starts feeling that only money and security are not enough. He also needs someone's company. At this level, people start giving more importance to relationships and try to make their place in society. Imagine if a person is feeling lonely and you advise him to move forward in his career. He will not be very excited. His priority right now is not career, but the feeling of being with someone. This is the reason that when a person is at this level, his priorities start revolving around his friends, family, and relationships. Now, if you see a person who always likes to spend time with people, it becomes easy to understand that he is at this level. He does not like to be alone, and his needs are related to those things that make him feel a sense of belonging. If he is not able to fulfill the needs of this level, he will start feeling sad or uncomfortable. The fourth level is of self-esteem needs. When a person is satisfied with relationships and social connections, he starts feeling the need for recognition and respect. He now wants people to appreciate him, acknowledge his success, and see him as an important person. This is the reason why some people are interested in showing their achievements on social media, because they get respect and recognition from it. At this level, people work harder and move forward in their career, learn new skills, and try to prove their ability. If a person is at this level, the best way to motivate him would be to make him feel that he is valuable and his achievements are appreciated. If you see a person who always wants praise for his work, it may mean that he is at the level of self-esteem need. He wants to hear that he did well because this is his motivation. The last and the highest level is of self-actualization. When a person gets respect and recognition in his life, now he starts trying to improve himself. He does not just run after money, relationships, or recognition, but tries to live his life for a bigger purpose. Such people want to use their abilities to the fullest and want to contribute something new to society. They start taking an interest in things like art, science, innovation, social work, and self-development. Now imagine if a person is at this level and you talk to him only about earning money, it will not motivate him much. Because his priorities have now changed, he has started thinking not only about his own well-being, but also about society and the world. If you understand where a person stands on Maslow's ladder of needs, you can guess which things will influence him the most. If a person's needs are basic, he needs security and stability. If he is looking for relationships, he needs belongingness. If he wants recognition, he needs appreciation. And if he is at the level of self-realization, he needs something that can connect his life with a deeper purpose. When you start using this model in your daily life, it becomes easier for you to understand people. You are able to know who will be inspired by what, who will take what kind of decisions, and who can be inspired in what way. This not only strengthens your relationships, but also helps in improving your relationships. Not only this, but you are also able to form a deeper understanding with people. Every human being has an ego within him, which helps him to feel good and maintain self-respect. Whenever something hurts our self-respect or makes us feel insecure, our mind starts adopting some methods to protect us from that pain. These methods are called defense mechanisms. They try to keep us mentally and emotionally safe, but many times we ourselves do not understand that we are using them. If we can identify how a person is protecting his ego, we can understand his real feelings and fears. Imagine if a person repeatedly ignores his mistakes and always blames others. What does it mean? It may be that he is avoiding accepting his mistakes because it may hurt his self-respect. He cannot even think that he can make a mistake, so his mind shows him an easy way. This is a defense mechanism of blaming others, which is called projection, in which a person starts seeing his weaknesses in others. Now suppose a person is very angry, but he tries to show himself as calm and composed. Whenever someone tells him that he is very short-tempered, he immediately replies, "I am not short-tempered. You are very short-tempered." This is also an example of projection because instead of accepting his negative feeling, he is projecting it on others. If you understand this pattern, you can recognize that his real fear is that he is afraid of being called an angry person. Another common defense mechanism is denial. In this, a person refuses to accept the truth, no matter how obvious it may be. Suppose a person spends too much and is in debt, but whenever someone tells him something about it, he replies, "I have no problem. I have everything under control." This is denial. He is ignoring the truth instead of seeing it because accepting the truth may be difficult for his ego. Many times people resort to rationalization. This means that they make excuses for their mistakes so that they do not feel bad. Suppose a person fails in an exam and says that it does not matter to him. Anyway, this exam was useless. Actually, it does matter to him, but if he accepts it, he will feel disappointed. So he starts convincing himself that the exam was not important. In this way, he tries to save his ego. Another interesting defense mechanism is repression. In this, a person suppresses his painful experiences or emotions in his subconscious mind so that he does not have to deal with them. Suppose a child was scolded a lot in childhood, but when he grows up, he does not remember these things of his childhood. This happens because his mind suppresses these bitter memories so deeply that they do not come to the surface. But these suppressed emotions can still affect his behavior. It may be that he is very afraid of criticism or tries to prove himself all the time. If we can understand what things a person is suppressing in his mind, we can also know what real fears or problems he is struggling with. Regression or doing childhood-like actions is also a common defense mechanism. In this, a person tries to react to a stressful situation by acting like a child in order to feel safe. Sometimes when people get very upset, they suddenly start crying or start adopting a method that they had adopted in their childhood. For example, if a person is under a lot of pressure in the office and he starts getting angry or irritable over every small thing, it is possible that he is using regression. His mind is taking him to that stage of his childhood when he used to get attention and support through his anger. Many times people resort to displacement of emotions. In this, a person does not take out his real feelings on the person with whom he is upset, but takes it out on someone else. Suppose a person comes home after getting scolded by his boss in the office, but he starts taking out his anger on his family or friends. His real anger is on the boss, but since he cannot dare to take out his anger on the boss, his mind gives him an easy option. Take out your anger on a weak or safe person. Some people use sublimation, which is a positive defense mechanism, in which the person turns his negative feelings into some constructive or productive activity. For example, a person may be angry, but if he channels this anger into sports, exercise, or art, he can express it in a good way. Many artists, writers, and sportspersons use this mechanism by transforming their emotions into creative work. The main idea of this book is that a person's behavior is like a pattern which can be seen in their actions, body language, and decisions. If you learn to recognize these patterns, you can understand a person better and even predict their next move.
Understanding behavior patterns. Every person's behavior is driven by two main motivations: seeking happiness and avoiding pain. For example, some people work hard to be successful and get praised, while others work hard to avoid being poor or getting criticized, avoiding pain. You can better understand a person's choices by figuring out which of these two drivers is more important to them. The role of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Another way to understand someone's behavior is to figure out which of Maslow's 5 levels of needs they are focused on. The needs are organized like a ladder, from basic needs at the bottom to more complex ones at the top. Physiological needs. These are the most basic needs, like food, water, and shelter. If a person is struggling with these, their main focus will be on survival. Safety needs. After basic needs are met, people want security, a stable job, and a safe home. A person at this level will be cautious and avoid risks. Social needs. Once a person feels safe, they look for love, friendship, and a sense of belonging. At this level, relationships become a priority. Esteem needs. This is the need for respect and recognition from others. People at this level often seek praise and want to be seen as important or successful. Self-actualization. This is the highest level, where a person focuses on personal growth, creativity, and living a life with purpose. At this stage, they are less concerned with money or social status. By knowing where a person is on this ladder, you can get a good idea of what motivates them and how to connect with them effectively. Identifying defense mechanisms. The book also explains defense mechanisms, which are psychological tools people use to protect their ego and deal with uncomfortable emotions. By recognizing these, you can understand what a person is really feeling, even if they're not saying it. Projection. A person accuses others of having the same negative traits they have themselves. For example, an angry person might say, "I'm not angry, you're the one who is." Denial. A person refuses to accept the truth about a difficult situation, like ignoring a debt or a serious health problem. Rationalization. People create logical excuses for their mistakes to avoid feeling bad about them. For instance, someone might fail an exam and say, "That test wasn't important anyway." Repression. This is when a person unconsciously buries painful memories or feelings deep in their mind, so they don't have to deal with them. Displacement. A person takes out their anger on an innocent third party instead of the person who actually made them angry. Sublimation. This is a positive defense mechanism where a person channels their negative emotions into a productive activity, like turning anger into creative art or intense physical exercise. By learning to spot these patterns and mechanisms, you can better understand the people in your life